Hello there, welcome to NTV English News Bulletin. I am Bhavana Casey. In the beginning, we have the headlines. Seat allocation task force formed by ruling coalition holding its meet today afternoon. Top leaders also to meet to settle the seat allocation. Sri Lankan president says talks with the IMF for a rescue package reaches the final stage. IMF team expected to end the ongoing round of talks today. Tributes paid from around the world after last Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev passes away. Gorbachev reportedly died after a long illness. And Rafael Nadal makes a winning start to advance to the second round of the US Open. Defending champion Raducanu crashes out. Welcome back. You are with NTV English News Bulletin. Now we have the news in details. The task force formed by the ruling five-party coalition to allocate seats in the upcoming elections is holding a meeting today as well. The task force will discuss the seat sharing among the five parties in the November 20 elections to the House of Representatives and Provincial Assembly. The top leaders of the five parties have already instructed the task force to finalize and submit a report on the situation of the 165 constituencies of the House of Representatives. The task force's meeting to be held at the Prime Minister's official residence in Balwatar this afternoon will try to sort out the differences among the five-party leaders on the allocation of seats. The Nepali Congress has been claiming 100 seats, Maoist Centre 60, Unified Socialist 40, Janata Samajwadi Party 32 and Rashtriya Jana Morcha 3 seats. The task force has been meeting for almost a month to finalize the seat distribution, but no conclusion has been reached yet. The top leaders of the alliance will take the final decision after the task force meeting submits its detailed study report. The meeting of the Impeachment Recommendation Committee is underway at Singadarbar. The meeting is seeking clarification from suspended Chief Justice Cholendra Samsir Rana about the allegations levelled against him. The Nepal Bar Association and the Supreme Bar Association on Sunday submitted evidence, documents and links to the media reports as an evidence of the impeachment against Rana. The House of Representatives decided to send the impeachment proposal against Rana to the committee on 31st of July. The ruling parties filed the impeachment motion against Rana last year with the 21 charges. There are allegations that Rana showed a share in the cabinet and constitutional appointments, bargained with the executive, set the bench on economic and political issues, and committed corruption. Hindu devotees are paying homage to Lord Ganesha on the occasion of Ganesh Chaturthi today across the country. The festival is celebrated every year on the fourth day of the bright fortnight in the Nepali month of Bhadra on Bhadra Shukla Chaturthi according to the lunar calendar. Lord Ganesha, who is also known as Ganapati and Vinayak, is revered as the remover of the obstacles and the patron of arts and sciences. Lord Ganesha is also the god of intellect and wisdom. Lord Ganesha is worshipped at the beginning of any religious ritual or undertaking. Hindus worship Ganesh, praying and wishing for peaceful and happy life. Devotees particularly throng to the temples of Ashok Vinayak and Chandra Vinayak in Kathmandu, Surya Vinayak and Kamal Vinayak in Bhaktapur. The Newar community meanwhile celebrates the day as Chatha Parva. With this update, time to go for a short break, but still to come we have. Welcome back. Now to the updates from the international front. Sri Lanka's president has said that his bankrupt country's talks with the International Monetary Fund for a rescue package have successfully reached the final stage as he presented an amended budget that seeks to tame inflation and the high taxes. President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is also the finance minister, said in a speech in parliament that his government will soon start negotiating debt restructuring with countries that provide loans to Sri Lanka. Wickremesinghe warned the country must prepare for at least 25 years of a national economic policy starting with the 2023 budget. An IMF team is visiting Sri Lanka and is expected to end the current round of talks on Wednesday. Sri Lanka's total foreign debt exceeds $51 billion, of which it must repay $28 billion by 2027. A team of international nuclear inspectors was heading Wednesday to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant caught in the middle of fighting in southern Ukraine amid international concern over potential accident or a radiation leak. Rafael Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, said he hoped to establish a permanent mission in Ukraine to monitor Europe's largest nuclear plant. The power plant has been occupied by Russian forces and operated by Ukrainian workers since the early days of the 6-month-old war. The site was recently temporarily cut off from the electrical grid because of the fire damage. The former Soviet leader who brought the Cold War to a peaceful end has died at the age of 91. Mikhail Gorbachev, who took power in 1985, opened up the then USSR to the world and introduced a set of reforms at home. But he was unable to prevent the slow collapse of the Soviet Union, from which modern Russia emerged. Tributes have been paid worldwide, with UN Chief Antonio Guterres saying he changed the course of the history. The hospital where he died said he had been suffering from a long and serious illness. More updates are lined up on the other side, but before that, let's have what we have coming up next. Welcome back. You are with NTV English News Bulletin. Now to more updates. Environment officials from some of the world's largest CO2 emitting nations met on Wednesday on Indonesia's resort island of Bali for talks to spur global climate action and other troubles that have worsened due to the war in Ukraine. Indonesia's Environment Minister Siti Nurabaya expected the meeting to produce a joint agreement with 3 priority issues: sustainable recovery, land-based and ocean-based climate action, as well as resource mobilization, to realizing the Paris Agreement, the first universal and legally binding commitment on climate change. The country is committed to reducing emissions by 41% with international assistance by 2030, or by 29% independently. Members of the G20 account for about 80% of the world's economic output. NASA will try again Saturday to launch its new moon rocket on a test flight after engine trouble halted the first countdown this week. Managers said Tuesday they are changing the fueling procedures to deal with the issue. A bad sensor also could be to blame for Monday's scrapped launch. The 322-foot rocket, the most powerful ever built by NASA, remains on its pad at Kennedy Space Center with an empty crew capsule on top. The Space Launch System rocket will attempt to send the capsule around the moon and back. No one will be aboard, just 3 test dummies. If successful, it will be the first capsule to fly to the moon since NASA's Apollo program 50 years ago. During Monday's launch attempt, readings showed that one of the 4 main engines in the rocket's core stage could not be chilled sufficiently prior to the planned ignition. More updates lined up on the other side, but before that, let's have what we have coming up next. Now to sports. FIFA President Gianni Infantino made a stop at Guatemala at his Central America tour to promote the participation of women in soccer. He insisted that clubs should make more women's teams and talked about the importance of the qualifying to the Women's World Cup. Rafael Nadal made a winning return to the US Open with a hard-fought opening round victory over Australian wildcard Rinky Hijikata 4-6, 6-2, 6-3 and 6-3 on Tuesday. The second-seeded Nadal advances to face Fabio Fognini of Italy in the second set for a treatment from a trainer. Raducanu is the only third woman to lose her opening match in New York a year after winning the title. Well, with this, we come to the end of this English News Bulletin. But before we say goodbye, let's have a quick reminder of the major stories. Seat allocation task force formed by ruling coalition holding its meet today afternoon. Top leaders also to meet to settle seat allocation. Sri Lankan President says talks with the IMF for a rescue package reaches the final stage. IMF team expected to end ongoing round of talks today. Tributes paid from around the world after last Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev passes away. Gorbachev reportedly died after a long illness. And Rafael Nadal makes a winning start to advance through the second round of the US Open. Defending champion Raducanu clashes out. Well, that's all we have in this edition of English News Bulletin. We shall see you again with next round of English Bulletin at 6 in the evening. Till then, have a great time ahead and stay tuned with us. Namaste.